welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. His name is Jamie Tuccolo, and he is the Director of Public Works for the town of Salisbury in beautiful beautiful Massachusetts.
There you go.
Jamie, say what's up there, everybody.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing?
Good. So, give me the lay of the land. What's Salisbury, Massachusetts like? Like, give me the population, the mileage, all that fun stuff, just so we kind of know what we're working with.
Sure. So basically, the population varies, right? So this is a very seasonal place. So it's the beach community.
Okay.
So in the winter months, we're averaging around 9,500 people, which is full time living. That's their life. In the summer, we between 20 and 22,000. With all of the seasonals and renters and just people trying to enjoy the beautiful beach that we have.
Gotcha.
The square mileage is around 39 miles.
Okay.
So, we're surrounded by two other communities, which is Seabrook and Hampton, which is just Rye. It's just a beautiful drive on the coast. You come in on a Sunday afternoon, you want to come grab a slice of pizza down at, Tripoli's, take a ride down the coast. It makes for a great day.
I like it. Okay, so seasonal, that kind of adds some complexities, I'm sure, to what you got going on or what
absolutely.
your operations are. And we'll definitely dive into that. But we want to know, you're the Director of Public Works for a town that goes from 9,500 to 22,000. So give us kind of the average day in the life of a Tuesday while, let's say, it's in the winter quiet months, and then also give us kind of the lay of the land, what you're doing when the population is up to 22,000.
Sure. Now, myself, now I know every community is different, right? So the DPW here entails 4 separate departments. It's water, sewer, highway, and beach.
Okay.
I run all 4 of them. So on a normal everyday winter day, if it's not snowing, because obviously when it snows, we're in snow operations. But when it's not snowing is when we play catch up, right? We do the maintenance on the vehicles if needed. We make sure that the salt is in the salt barn is at full capacity. We make sure that there's no potholes with our hot box in the streets. We try to maintain the bigger complaints of life that usually is the potholes of the world and everything that can be done in the winter as far as the highway goes. Now with water and sewer is a little bit different, right? So the sewer department makes sure that we have 22 pump stations in town that pump all to the wastewater treatment facility where it gets treated. The gentlemen there, they make sure that those pump stations are operating without worry. We try to keep the backups to homes to minimal to none at best. The water crew does the same thing. So water crew is more of a standby crew in the winter to make sure that there are no breaks. It's not like we can go hydrant flushing, but we start our capital plan, right? We're starting to plan on what are we going to do in the spring, summer, and fall. So the winter months for the water department is more concentrated on the planning of what to do in the spring, summer, and fall for upgrades or maintenance and things of that nature that you can do when it's not 22 below zero outside.
Gotcha. And let's say your morning powwows, morning rodeos before you send the guys out, like when the summer months are around and there's more people out, is there a different message? Like, hey, we got a lot of visitors in town. We kind of got to button up our shirts and clean up our language, or is it?
So the language and yes, we always try to be when the men and women are in the field, they are very professional. They don't cuss. They don't now in front of each other in the garage. That's a different story, right? But in the field, they are very respectful. So they know their place, right? They know all of us have a role to play, and we all play it very well. But as far as buttoning up the shirt, you're 100% right. Yeah. Today, Friday before Memorial Day, is a lot different than last Friday when it was just an ordinary weekend that wasn't, foresty yet. So today, I'm actually paving 3 streets. So there's paving going on right now. There's beach cleanup going on right now. We have 2 large restrooms that open seasonally. Those are all prepared to be open for the weekend, starting at 3:00 this afternoon. So there's a lot of different moving parts that we're all trying to get a hold of, which we do every year. So it's kind of like to these men and women, night and day. They know what the hell they're doing. They know how to do it, and and it's a team thing. There is no, because you're interviewing me and I am the director. Yes, but I couldn't do it without the men and women that work for this town.
Sure.
We are a very tight group. I give them all the credit in the world because I might find the stuff for them to do, but they actually go out and do it.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's one thing I learned about seasonal. It could be a village in the mountains. It could be a beach town. It could be, somewhere like out here in Arizona, we have Sedona, where it's in the, it's a little bit cooler than the valley, and people like to go there to vacation. And the conscious thought is always, hey, we have to provide a product for when people come out here, they have a good time and they're willing to come back. Like you said, that bathroom that opens, like, you don't even have to explain it, but I kind of know what that looks like. It kind of feels like, because you got more people coming, so you have to have a nice bathroom. Because I've been to towns. Yeah. You
come to the beach, right? Now the area that I'm speaking about, just to give you a kind of like a quick synopsis of what it looks like, is you have the beach area, which is obviously the beach, Then you have a thing called Broadway, which is, a couple of pizza shops. There's a Joe's Playland, which is an arcade that's been there for 100 years. Yeah. So these businesses thrive in the summer months. You're not going to come as a family with children to a place that doesn't offer, clean facilities, changing facilities. We actually installed a thing last year that when you come off the beach, you don't want to go back to your car all sandy. So there's outdoor showers to get the sand off of you. I mean, we try to encourage people to come back to the beautiful town of Salisbury. I mean, it's a very short-lived summer. Summer goes really quickly, especially here in New England.
How many weeks do you get in summer?
So, I mean, it's basically 8 weeks of summer, like full weeks. Which would be, July and August. June, yes, it's the turning point, but kids are still in school until the halfway point of June, right? So, so the tail end of June is really when summer begins here. And then they start school in late August now. It's just different. It's different from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We used to not go back to school till after Labor Day.
Yeah, September, late September.
It's different now because they try to work in the snow days. So they don't get out later in the June month. So I believe right now they're out on the 16th of June, and they didn't have. I think they had one snow day last year.
Wow.
Yeah,
you guys get a lot of snow in the winter.
So it's funny that you say that. So the year, I'm going to date myself now. So the year of 2015 was an epic year of. I don't think that anybody will see it in their lifetime again. We had 110 inches of snow in 4 weeks. That's unprecedented. You couldn't put it anywhere. There just wasn't any room. Then a couple of years was mediocre, 20 to 40 inches of snow for the entire. And then the last two, not this past year, but the 2 years prior to that, nothing. Like nothing.
Wow.
So it's like, what the hell happened? Last year we had a couple. We had a nor'easter last night, but because of the weather, it was just rain. So I mean, a nor'easter can come anytime. It's just what's the precipitation? Is it rain, snow, sleet?
Yeah.
This happened to be rain, but just the wind was howling and just causes all the work that we did leading up to yesterday to try to make to beautify the whole area. We have to redo.
Yeah.
The wind, the leaves, everything's just everywhere.
Gotcha. Jason Tatum went down with the the Achilles injury. Is that tough for you, Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, they were having a more difficult time than I anticipated to begin with.
You're right.
You know what? Good for the Knicks, man. They 25 years. I think they've been absent from. So good for them. But going back to what I said before, that I find the work these gentlemen and ladies do the work, right? So I can't do it all myself. So you can't rely on the entire team because of one man, right?
I like that.
Is he an all-star? Hell yeah, he's an all-star. But you know what? So is everybody else on that bench. They're all in the NBA.
Yeah.
So they all can step up. They all can play a role. They lost to a better team.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
For sure.
But yes, it does hurt.
Yeah. I'm sure. Talk to me a little bit about the beach. Not too many people have that, that part, like you said, the 4 parts of your public works department, the beach. Is that something that people come to you and say, hey, Jamie, like, how are you handling X, Y, Z on the beach? Like, what are some of the things that'll keep you up at night in regards to the beach, whether it's off season or even in on season?
those bathrooms that I just spoke about.
Okay.
So those bathrooms, and you know, you don't think of the day in the life of a director of public works worried about a bathroom, right?
Never.
But these particular bathrooms, you know, it's where they're located, which is in the heart of the district of the businesses that I explained, that you know, that generates revenue for these companies.
Sure.
Unfortunately, you know, you have, for every 10 or 100 patrons that care about the cleanliness, that there's someone who's had too much to drink, or somebody that's, you know, they're out in the sun and they had a couple of drink, and there are a few bars in that particular area, and we don't close these bathrooms until 11 at night. So
wow.
Sometimes, you know, things happen, right? And if we're not instantly there to clean, shut down, do what we have to do, then it hits Facebook, or it hits, you know, and then it gets out there that the Salisbury DPW is not doing their job.
Right.
It's amazing how fast 100 million compliments gets X'd out by one bad publicity thing that might happen. And yes, it might be gross, and yes, it's not the most famous, but let me tell you, the men and women that work for the town, they do the best that they can, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we can't. So if someone goes in and I'm just gonna tell you what happens, right? So if someone goes in and defecates in a sink or on the floor, but the workers are on the other side of the beach picking up trash because that's their job. They check the bathrooms, you know, periodically, or they definitely go in once an hour to do a walkthrough. They check all the stalls, they check all the toilet paper, they check the soap, they make sure everything is up.
Once an hour. Wow.
Once an hour for the duration. So it opens up at 8 a.m. and we close
till 11 p.m. Gosh.
So that entire time, and there's two separate buildings. You have literally two separate buildings. Men and women. So you know, it's a very large building, and again, in the winter, no problem. None of this exists, right? But hit this weekend, and then until Labor Day, it's consistently going, even on a rainy day. So here's how I sum it up: is people say to me, "Oh, Jamie, this is great. It looks like you guys might get a break because it's raining out for the next 3 or 4 days." Well, yeah, you know what? You know, John Q. Public, who booked the Airbnb or the hotel last year,
he's still coming. He's still coming
because they're still going to come use the facilities because they're going to go to Joe's and play in the arcade because it's raining out. So that's what they do, right? You got to keep the kiddies entertained, or else
do something.
God, you know? So it's always an adventure. You know, we have a huge concert in August. It's called the River Fest. It's put on by the radio station, the River 92.5. Thousands of people come, thousands, and they flood. It's a free concert. They flood that whole area, and that's when, you know, we're on our game. Just 20, you know, the 48 hours leading up to the concert, and then the 24 hours after the concert.
Sure. In a destination spot like Salisbury, it's usually the small businesses, the mom and pops, you know, the like you said, the pizza shop that might have been there for 30 years, the bars that are on the beach that's been there for so many years. What are they asking of you in regards to public works? Do they say, hey, like, you know, last year we had a grease backup, like, what are we doing this year to fix that? Or like, hey, the planter box outside my pizza shop is over, you know, like what usually comes across your desk from the you know, the merchants in that area so they can present well to their customers?
So again, we try to consistently. So every morning, you know, we call it policing. So we have people walking that entire area. We pick up all the trash. If there's anything like dirty or it looks like it needs to be washed or cleaned, it's done before the patrons even open. With that said, they have no problem calling the office and telling us, hey, listen, you know, I can you come down here or send a crew down here and get this, you know, fixed, cleaned, or completed before the rush of you know, night. And we typically will throw a work order in, and it's done within an hour.
Beautiful.
But they will call, or if
Yeah.
they see the employees down there, they'll just grab them. They'll just say, hey. And you know, and the men and women that work for the town, they're very receptive because they know there's a very short window, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
8-week window is when they capitalize the most.
Sure, sure. Okay. Let's dive in a little bit about the backstory, the origin story of Jamie Tuccolo. You know,
Sure.
you're not a mushroom. You didn't pop up yesterday doing this. So give us the career path of
Sure.
from high school all the way up until today.
Sure. All right. Well, again, Jamie Tuccolo. I am from Haverhill, Massachusetts. Born and raised. You know, I was raised by my single father and my grandparents.
Mhm.
My mother passed at a very young age.
Uh,
So coming up the chain, it was my brother, myself, and my father, and my grandparents. Um, I still to this day say that everything that I've become is because of my grandparents. Old school Italians. They you know they taught you the ways that you should learn, right? So in high school, I went to Whittier Tech, which is a technical high school. I took up carpentry. I then from high school, I went on to Hanscom Air Force Base. I wasn't in the military, but I worked in the grounds, what's called
Okay.
civil engineering. So I took care of the plowing, and that's where I learned the start of my life of being in public works, right? So
Yeah.
that wasn't a public work job, but we did the same thing.
Yeah.
A gentleman named Richard Martino was my mentor and one of the greatest mentors to ever walk this earth. He's a fine individual. He's a Marine veteran. That man taught me, I'd say 75% of what I know
Wow.
when it comes to the field. He took the time out of his day to saw something in me. I would ask questions regarding paving, plowing, cutting lawn. I mean, just every little thing. And for him to want to take time and explain stuff to me, not just explain it, like he literally would show me, was something that I try to do to anybody who comes into my office now. From there, in 1999, I got hired on in the city of Haverhill. I got hired as a Zamboni driver. You know what a Zamboni is?
The hockey rinks.
A hockey rink.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the town, the city of Haverhill owns its own hockey rink. So I got hired as a hockey rink attendant, so to speak.
Did you play it all? Like, did you know?
No, I did not. No. It's one of those. I mean, pond. You know, we played hockey, but not. I didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my kids play.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't. So my from there, 6 months into my employment, an opportunity arose over in the wastewater field. So it was for the town of Haverhill, the city of Haverhill. It was for a collection. It's called collections. It's when you're in the field and you're working in the pump stations. I was hired. 10 years I was there. I learned everything I know about wastewater from a gentleman named Paul Jessel, who I believe is still there. Paul and I, he's a mentor as far as what I wanted to become as a boss. He has the patience of a saint because God knows me and the crew that I was with tested those patience on him on the daily basis. So with that said, he encouraged me to go out and get my licenses. So I kept going and getting, my licenses for wastewater, for the collections portion of it. A job opened in the city of Newburyport, which is next door to the town of Salisbury.
Okay.
Another coastal community. I was hired there as a collection system operator, the collection system manager in 2008. So in 2008, I started there. In 2014, I became the superintendent. In 2018, I became the deputy director of public works. And then in 2022, I became the director of public works.
Wow.
There.
Okay.
2023, this job opened in the town of Salisbury. I applied, and I've been here ever since. And it's the best move professionally I ever made.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I also learned in my journeys that a lot of people don't live in the respective town that they work for. Do
Yep.
you live in the area? Is it a far
I don't.
commute for you? Okay.
No, it takes me about 30 minutes to get to work.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know, you grow up in the area. I'm 30 minutes from here, but I grew up. So backtrack. When I was 14 years old, there was a restaurant called Mr. Mike's, which was here in Salisbury at this
Okay.
the whole area I'm telling you about. I worked there as a 14-year-old kid. I would take the bus from Haverhill, Mass. I would take it to downtown Salisbury, which is about a 20-minute, 30-minute commute. Cost me 89 cents. I'd get off the bus. I'd work till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then my father would pick me up, and he'd fall asleep, and I would drive home.
14. Love it.
It was different. You know what? It was these. See these things right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was before that, and that's what changed the world as far as being able to do certain things.
Yeah. Okay. I totally get that. All right, so let's talk skill sets for a little bit. Let's say somebody's asking you, they're fresh into the industry, they're going up for a public works director job. They're like, Jamie, what is the main skill set they should pick up to be successful at being a public works director? What do you think?
Drive. You got to have drive. You have to have drive. And when I mean driving, I'm Generation X, right? I'm one of the dying breeds of old school. I've been in municipal government now. I just hit my 25th year. I've never used a sick day. I've never called out sick. I look at it like this, the town pays me to be here.
Yeah.
They give me plenty of vacation time. So don't get me wrong. I take vacation. I take my time off. I do what I'm going to do, but there's no reason for me if I'm waking up one day and I just, you know what? I don't want to go into work. That's not how I was raised. My grandparents taught me to get up and go to work. You get up and you go to work. Be a sponge. I didn't get here on my own. The two gentlemen that I said earlier, that's just a small example of, look, my brother Jared, was and still is, how I live and breathe every day. That kid, so he lost his battle to brain cancer in 1999. So, but leading up to that, never complained, never said woe is me.
Yeah.
He got up every day and did what he wanted to do. He went to his job. He lived his life. He enjoyed his life. And that's what I would tell all your listeners. Look, being in my position is great, but getting here is the fun part, right? Go to work, enjoy your time. Don't look at it like work. You don't have a choice, right? Everybody has to work. You have to. So why not enjoy it? If you don't enjoy what you're doing, do something else. Because I love my job. Hence, I've never used a sick day because I love what I do. I love interacting with my employees. I love interacting with the public. My boss, who's the town manager, I love interacting with my boss. Sitting down and showing him what this department actually did this past week, this past month, this past year. It's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Like today, for example, on Memorial Day weekend, most communities shut down. I'm paving 3 roads just because it's going to benefit. It's going to benefit the town of Salisbury in the long run.
Yeah.
So you gotta like and want, and you gotta have that drive. You gotta look. When I started as a Zamboni driver, did I see myself as a Zamboni driver for the rest of my life? No. My wife got pregnant. I was expecting my child, and I said, all right, this is a start.
Yeah.
I want him or her to see. Yeah. What it's like to work up the chain, and that's what I've done. I wouldn't change anything in my past. I got here. It wasn't easy. It was very hard. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There was a lot of when you're at the brink of giving up because you think you don't have a shot.
Yep.
Just don't stop.
Uh,
You show your boss that you give a shit, and
yeah.
and they will notice you.
Uh,
I notice people. I'm still a sponge. I notice people. I have a business manager that works here. She is. I'd be lost without her. She truly. I don't know if I should name drop it because I don't know how the whole thing works, but she truly is an amazing
sure.
employee, and this town is very, very lucky to have somebody like her.
Uh,
And forget about I'm more grateful,
yeah.
but they're lucky.
Uh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? There's a big
Yeah.
difference there. I'm grateful because of all the stuff that she does for me,
Yeah.
and for this town. They should be thankful because she literally lives and breathes this town. She lives in town. She's she's so that's why I don't want to drop her name.
Sure.
But she knows who she is.
Sure, sure. I see those two good-looking lads behind you on the wall, and this kind of a personal, selfish question. I have young kids. My
Yeah.
oldest is 4,
Oh,
and
good for you.
that adage you said about like when you don't feel like doing it, when you
Yep.
wake up, you're like, I don't feel like going to work, or my 5-month-old was up all night. Me and my
Yep.
wife are throwing knives at each other at
Oh,
3
yeah.
in the morning. Like you
Oh,
remember,
Yeah.
like how do you instill into your children,
Yep.
that's again, I see the boys behind you that looks
Yep.
like they're in sports photos.
Yep.
That drive, that
Yep.
hey, if you don't feel like it, you still
Yep.
got to do it. You still got to show up. Like, how do you pass that on to the next generation?
And that's an excellent question, and I'm going to answer that in a twofold response. Right. So
Sure.
my first is they still see it. So I have
Mm.
my little babies now. My son Jared's 25. My son Alec is going to be 21 in
Little
2 weeks.
babies, yeah.
And then my youngest, my baby Nick, he's going to be 16. So I
Yeah.
mean, you were in my shoes, and I feel you. I really do. Those 2-3 o'clock, those wake up calls and the screaming and
Yeah.
the trying to just put him or her back to bed, and then have to get up and do your daily grind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my kids still see it because they say, Dad, when are you going to start using time? And I said, when I retire. Don't ever feel like just because you've made it to the pinnacle point of your life that you deserve that. I still want to earn that. I earn that every day that I come into this office. Just because when some people, when they get to the point of where they want to be, they become lax, right? They become complacent. They think that their journey's over. Well, that's not how I feel. I feel like I owe a set of gratitude to the men and women that came before me and that are going to come after me. And I'm trying to set a good, when it's time for me to move on in life, I want somebody to be able to walk through that door and not really have to do all of the things that it took us to do to get where we are.
Yeah.
So my kids see that.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's definitely, and I'm not telling listeners, I'm not telling your listeners how to raise their kids. I'm telling you how I did mine.
Sure. Right? Hey, that's all I can ask for. Yeah.
Every parent wants to give their kid everything that they want, right? But what happens when you do that? They become thinking that everything is just given to them for no just reason. It should be so my kids, for instance, my kids were hockey, right? So my oldest always wanted the new and greatest hockey sticks. Well, those bad boys aren't cheap. Right? You want a $300 stick? No problem. Let's see your report card. Let's see if you make your bed every day. Let's see if mom needs help, bringing in the groceries without having to ask you. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I see, and that's now instilled in them. Stand up before a woman sits down. Don't eat your food before mom starts to eat. You know what I mean? Just little things.
Yeah.
Open the door.
Yeah.
For your in the future. Open the door for your girlfriend. Treat people in your job like you want to be treated and you want to leave a legacy behind in your job. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what I'm trying to instill in the kids.
Sure. Love it. Love it, man. Love it. All right. It's story time.
Okay.
I need a story from Jamie when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh, that list is long. That's long and distinguished. Jesus, I'm just trying to think of what story I should tell you, if it should be, sewer or highway related.
Something that, I mean, I always ask this question because there's somebody listening to this episode right now, and
Yep.
they're in the pickle right now. They're in the middle of the pickle. They made a boo-boo, and they're like, man, how can I fix this, or how can I even recover from this?
Yeah.
And if they could hear your story and go that, oh, Jamie made it 25 years after this, like,
Yeah.
he's fine. So
No problem. Here we go. This is a sewer story.
yeah.
Now, remember, the biggest thing I can say before I even start this is honesty, right? Own your shit. If you screw something up, don't point the finger at somebody else. Don't say it wasn't my fault. What it's the story I'm going to tell you, I owned this story. I owned the responsibility of it, and it'll never happen again. So that's another thing, right? You learn from your mistakes. Whatever mistake you might make, if you don't learn from it, well, then there's no teaching you.
Yeah,
you got to learn, right?
Again. Yeah.
So this was probably back in 2004-ish, right? Maybe 2000, late 2004. I had just had my second, my 21-year-old now. Going back to what you just said, I was exhausted, right? So like, he was a handful as a child. And in a loving way, but he let his presence be felt at a very young age.
Hey, I know what you mean. Yeah.
When he was up at 1 a.m, and I we'd switch, right? It wouldn't be all her. We'd have to switch it. So it was just happened to be my turn. The next day, there's not enough coffee in the world that kept me from doing what I was about to do. So I was at a pump station, and I knew better than to. So there's pumps, right? And then on a pump, there's a faceplate, which you have to shut down your valves, open your faceplate, and then whatever's stuck inside of the volute, you can reach in and grab it. Well, I forgot to shut down the valves. So once you take that faceplate off, the head pressure that's behind it, you're not getting it back on.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind this is wastewater, so this isn't clean. This is just wrong in every aspect of life. So as I'm undoing the bolts, it's 4 bolts that hold it on. As I get to the last one, it happened, and it just flooded. It was just coming. It was just flooding, and you go into panic mode because you're like, dear God, what the hell do I do? What do I do? I mean, you have a nonstop flow of wastewater entering where you're standing in a room that it has no place to go except for up. So
I've been in those rooms. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. It's just so you start thinking, uh-oh. So, it clicks after a second. So I shut the valves down but now how do I explain this to my boss that I have to clean this out? I'm in a place that is not accessible to cleaning utilities or utensils. So when I went, because this is before cell phones, by the way, so I didn't have a cell phone. So I had to drive back to the plant, and instead of saying, oh, whatever, instead of making some goddamn excuse, I said the first thing out of my mouth when I walked in his office is, hey, I explicit something up. So he stood up. We all went out there. He saw what he did. He turned to me and said, look, mistakes happen. And that's exactly what this was a mistake. You owned it. You came right to me. You didn't lie. You didn't say this. You didn't say that. Will you ever do it again? No. Did I ever do it again? No. Do I use that same mindset if somebody comes into the office and says, look, I messed up? No problem. Let's figure it out. Let's make sure that the problem's solved. Let's make sure that anything or anybody involved is good, and then we'll take it from there. But I don't judge. I don't jump the gun. I don't shoot from the hip. I just try to take it in stride and figure it out and then go from there.
Sure. Thanks for telling that. Thank you for that.
And that was Paul Jessup, by the way. That's the boss, my boss from the wastewater.
Yeah.
That's who that was.
Gotcha. Were you wearing it? Like, was it all on your clothes?
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. I ingested it. It comes when. Oh yeah. Oh, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was good. Oh, it was
It was good. Okay.
It was an adventure at that particular moment. I got into such a panic. I picked up a bucket because I had a bucket of my tools. Right?
Yeah.
I picked up a bucket and tried to put the bucket. You know what I mean? Because you're in pain. You just don't. You blank out. You just shut down until you can just sit there for a second and just say, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work. What next?
Yeah.
And then you glance up and you see the valve.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think we've all tried the bucket in our lives. That's a metaphor for us trying to fix something when we should just pause and think about it honestly. Yep. All right. So how does Jamie continue to show up better and better and better? You've been at this for 25 years. I'm sure you've seen as much or more of what you're going to see on the day to day. But what forces you to keep putting new information into your brain so you can keep learning to operate more efficiently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to involve it into the technology in which we now have at our fingertips, right? So, before I came here, nothing was digital. They didn't have like the apps and all of the stuff on their phones and stuff that helps the men and women in the field when something is to go wrong. So now that's what I do on a daily is I concentrate on what can I build. So we built the work order system. We built the apps. We work with a company called MVPC, who literally we develop apps together. So I think I did 6 of them so far. For sewer, water, highway, just little different things that we can. So the work order system now is there is no more paper. If a call comes in, the ladies in the business office answer it. They create a work order and it goes right to the person on their phones. Boom, just like that. And then there's a paper trail with it because once you create it, it gets sent via email, which is a paper trail on all aspects. And then the work order itself remains open until it's closed. Once it's closed, I get notified that one particular work order is closed. So if somebody were to call a year from now to ask if that ever was, I can just 2 seconds and pull up all the information on any particular property that we go to.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice little feature.
Yeah.
I joke around a lot. I find that I'm 50, right? I act about 15, and I think that's what keeps I do cookouts. So I do cookouts once a month for the employees here.
Okay. What we cooking this month?
So that's next Thursday. It's the last Thursday of every month. This usually around Memorial Day, I'll do steak tips. Once a year. So it's once a year.
Okay, I was about to say.
And then for Christmas,
that's a budget, baby.
I usually get like I'll buy takeout and cater it for the men and women of the DPW. But on the monthly, I do this once a month. Pay for it. I do it all. Just to show them, people do care.
Yeah.
I care. And although not everybody says thank you all the time, it's one of those things that I believe that if you show the employees that, and again, it's a hamburger, and I do a game. I do a $10 gift card as a gift. Yeah. At the end of the cookout, we'll do a game of whatever they choose to do, whether it be darts or something quick. And the winner gets a $10 gift card to the local Dunkin' Donuts, which is a coffee cup. Yeah. It goes a long way because it's team building, right? So it brings the water, sewer, and highway guys all together in one room because we are in different locations. So for an hour, we're all together shooting shit, figuring out, hey, do you need me for this? Or hey, do you need help with that? And it's a great way to keep everybody team oriented. So it's a great team building event that I like to do.
So there's probably people listening to this and they're thinking like, man, I want to do something like that. So was that something that Jamie brought from a different city? Something you might have heard? Did you start it? Was it already
I did.
implemented?
No, I
Like,
started it. I started at Newburyport in 2018 when I became the director. Excuse me, the deputy director. The camaraderie at the time was not the greatest.
yeah,
So I said, all right, and again, you have 3 different departments over there as
yeah,
well. You have water, sewer, highway.
yeah,
So trying to get everybody on the same page wasn't
yeah.
the easiest thing to do when you're going individually to people. So I came up with an idea once of just saying, oh, you know what? Let's have a cookout. And it wasn't in my mind of doing it monthly. It was just, hey, let's just have a cookout.
Yeah.
It went over so well that it became a monthly ritual.
Cool.
So when I came from my interview here, they had heard about that over there. And when I left there, unfortunately, it stopped in Newburyport. They didn't keep it going.
The heck, man.
I don't know.
Drop the ball, man. What's
From
going
what
on?
I've heard is the camaraderie is falling apart over there. So here, I think it's added into a new realm of how to be in a good work environment versus a hostile work environment. You want to come to work, you don't want to have a pit in your stomach.
Yeah.
You don't want to say, oh, shit.
Yeah. Sunday night, you're hemming and hawing, and
You
like, I don't want to go tomorrow.
That's right. And I usually do. We picked Thursdays, and I picked it as a team. It wasn't me that picked it. I asked them what day of the week they wanted, and everybody chose Thursdays because a lot of people do take Fridays off, right? So because it's the beginning of the weekend, people that have kids or whatever.
Yeah.
So Thursday seemed to be the best, so that it just kind of stuck. So next Thursday will be 2 years in a row of having a monthly
steak
cookout.
tips. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What's the biggest misconception about what you do? Like, let's say I asked your wife's best friend, what does Jamie do all day, every day, for his community? What would she get totally wrong in answering that question?
Everything.
Okay.
They listen, the typical John Q public, right? They look at DPW as, oh, look at this guy's in a hole and there's 7 people standing around with shovels, right? That's the typical joke, right?
Yeah.
What they don't realize is the 7 that are standing around are taking turns jumping in that hole because you can't do it all yourself. So, but you have to have standby for 3 reasons. Safety. If something goes wrong in that hole, you need people to be there. You need people to stand around. You need people to be observant. So the misconception of people saying, "Oh, those goddamn DPW workers," they really come on, take a ride with us. Sit with us for a day.
Yeah.
Learn what we do. The second misconception is how we do things. Like, people think that if I make a call, I want my street paved, it's going to be done tomorrow. The planning that's involved in this is
right.
I have a 5-year plan for streets. So if your street is not on that 5-year plan, well, after this year, it's now a 4-year plan, and then we add another year at the end of that.
Yep.
And that's how it continuously goes. So it takes months and months of planning with my boss to figure out what streets are going to be done in the following coming years. Yes, that can change depending on the winter we have, depending on how much damage is done with plows, salt, there's so many variables that can happen that can change the direction of where we're going for a street, not every street, but the one street that might not be as bad might not be as good the following year because of the winter that we had. So that's a huge misconception that we just kind of like throw a dot and pick a street, right? That's not how it, at least not in this community or any community that I've ever worked for. There's the men and women that are behind the scenes that are planning all of this. There truly is a lot of planning involved.
Yeah.
Budgetary reasons. You got to remember too, a lot of this has to do with money. So communities can only do what they have for funding. So you do as much as you can for the funding in which you have. If you don't have enough funding one year, you try to put as much in one and then explain to everybody that you'll get to it. And yes, I know everybody's a taxpayer. I understand that. But when you break down the taxes, it's you're getting a very good bang for your buck. And especially in beautiful Salisbury. I mean, we try to keep the streets swept, clean. We also maintain all the cemeteries. And we're a very small department, and we're not a very large department. And we do a lot. These men and women of this DPW organization, they really are something special.
Yeah. Okay. You said you're 50. I'm sure there's people in your department that are a little bit older, and some probably younger than you.
Yep.
A lot of people focus on the aging infrastructure, whether it's the roads, the pipes underground.
Yep.
I like to focus on the aging workforce. I mean, you're probably looking at retiring in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
What do you say to those, or what have you seen in the industry that has been effective at getting the younger generation interested in public works, into public works, and then keeping them in public works and not losing them when they get their CDL or when they get certified for something? Like, what can we do to get that new generation in and help them stick in the industry?
Excellent question. So it's funny that you said that. I was asked to do a presentation last Tuesday to a high school, local high school, they were doing co-ops. It was a technical, these kids go to a technical school, just like I went to. They aren't going the college route. They want to know about the workforce. So I sat in detail and went through water, sewer, highway. And the one thing, regardless of all three of those, job security. So listen, you're never going to be rich doing this job, but what you will have is a great life. You'll always be there for your kids' activities. So it all depends on what you're looking for in life, right? So I was a very involved and still am a very involved father. I didn't miss a thing that my kids did. So I coached them, and that's what the benefit of working for a municipality does, right? Our hours are 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. Yes, we're on call. Yes, things happen. But usually when you have kids, you have a good group of people. One person will bet, hey, listen, you're on call, but I have my son has a concert. Can you cover me for a couple of hours? Stuff like that is what made me want to stay in what I'm doing. You joke around, you enjoy what you do. And guess what? If you don't like the highway aspect of it, there's 2 other departments within the municipal government that you can go to. Never mind City Hall or other departments like the Treasury Department, the auditing, but there's other things that you can morph to if you wanted to. This is more of the construction or the hands-on for the water and sewer aspect of it. Number 2, the 2 things that you're always going to have to do in life, my man, 2. You're always going to have to flush the toilet, and you're always going to be able to pull that handle and get some water out of the water bubble. Yeah. No matter what anybody says, those are the 2 necessities that they'll always be there. Yeah. That will never go away. What is that? That's job security.
Job security, baby. Yeah.
That's job security. And you get job security by going into industries that need it.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, how to get kids involved and keep them is by exactly what I'm telling you, right? Having the cookouts, showing these kids that, you have to come to work, but there's a benefit at the end of the day. That it's not money, it's not financial, which that comes with, you do your overtime, you do your time, you get paid. Nobody does anything for free. But when you do come to work, you get your coffee breaks, right? You get your guaranteed lunch breaks. You get your 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks vacation. Just, you have a retirement plan. Like, I have a pension.
Yeah.
Those are things that are a dying breed. So that's what I was basically saying to these the younger generation coming up. Look, there's nobody behind me. There's nobody that I can foresee that can do. And I'm not trying to blow my own head up, right?
I understood. I get what you're saying.
But I'm a different breed. I'm one of those people that can actually do the computer work and also do the field work because I came from the field. Yeah. When these guys come in and say, hey, Jamie, this job's going to take me 4 hours, I legitimately know if he's telling me the truth or not because I've done it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's the benefit that helps me. For the first 15 years of my life, of my working life in municipal, I was in the field.
Yeah.
There's nothing that these guys can do that I didn't do. There's nothing I haven't seen. I mean, every day is a new adventure. Yes. Every day is something new. Yes. But I know how to do it. Versus, I'm not dogging school, but a lot of people go to school and they come out with a degree in whatever they come out with, a degree in business, and they become a director, but they have no idea what they're directing.
Yeah.
Oh, that job's going to take 8 hours. Okay, no problem. 8 hours when it would take like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things you have to understand what jobs you're actually giving these kids to better understand how to make them enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Salisbury. What ask of your community in regards to public works would you put on this billboard?
That's an excellent question. For me, it's the safety of the men and women that are in the field, right? So, put your phones down when you're driving. That's the number one thing, is all of these guys, regardless if it's water, if it's sewer, or if it's highway, even beach for that matter, 99% of what they're doing is in the roadway.
Yeah, it's
Patching
true.
holes,
Good
manhole covers, water lines, they're all in the main road. And a lot of these jobs, because we're a small community, you're doing it with just one or two people. You don't have what you see on the highway, right? Where there's trucks everywhere and the lights are flashing. We don't have that. We have one truck with a strobe.
Yeah.
You gotta pay attention. And please don't blame them. If the men and women are out in the field doing something, it's not them that are choosing to do that. It was either me that sent them there or because there's something going on. So if you see somebody in your area and you don't like it, don't take it out on them.
Yeah.
Call the office, call me. I have no problems talking to anybody. Because they're there for a reason. They're doing their jobs. Don't ever interact with somebody in a negative light that's in the field doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing their job. It's unfair to them when somebody else sent them there.
Yeah.
Which would be me or one of the ladies in the office.
Sure. Okay. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. You've already thanked a couple mentors, but if there's anybody else you want to shout out, go ahead and do that. And then also, I want you to give a word of motivation and inspiration. You said you were a coach, so you got to give a pep talk to the fellow public works department directors around the country.
Okay. So I'll start with the thank you, right? Obviously, I'd like to thank my family, because without the family backing, without those, and this is to you, Joseph, treasure those moments when your babies are your babies, right?
No way.
Dude, I shut my eyes and my kids are gone, right?
Really?
They're off in their life doing perfect, great, that's awesome. I loved watching it. I loved every goddamn second of it. But I didn't realize how fast it goes by, because like you and I talked about 20 minutes ago about that night that I was tired, right? All night with my kid. You think those are going to last forever.
Yeah.
And then one day you wake up, you're 50 and, your kids are 25 and 21 and 16. It's just, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
So now it's like, I'm looking forward to the grandparent stages of life. I don't rush it, but that's, I miss the smell of a baby coming out of a bath and that air, and treasure those moments. I'd like to thank Richard Martino and Paul Jessel. I mean, those two gentlemen were the mentors in my working life. I'd like to thank my brother Jared. Great man. And then I would like to say to the DPW men and women who are in charge, listen, you don't get to where you're going by yourself. Don't forget that. Don't ever look down on somebody because they're pushing a broom. Don't ever look down on somebody because they're doing what you did maybe to look. Again, I started as a Zamboni driver. I treat everybody like I was when I was a Zamboni driver, because that's the only way that's why nobody leaves this department. They're treated with respect, and they're given respect because they give respect. It's a give and give and get, give and get, give and get. And even if you're not getting it yet, there could be something going on with this men and women at their home.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on in people's lives?
Oh.
So you treat it as, look, everybody has a bad day. Am I perfect? Well, yeah, actually, yeah, I am. But,
Of course.
but besides that, I mean, everybody has a bad day, right? Everybody has a day that is just one of those days. So in closing, I'll close out by saying, just don't ever change because of who you become. Always treat the people that work for you like they're your counterparts, because they are. Because without them, you don't look good. Period.
Yeah. All right. Let's say I'm coming to town. I'm coming to Salisbury, and I text you ahead of time. I say, Jamie, where can I go to get the best burger in town? Where are you going to send me?
Jesus. So, I mean, you're going to do that to me? Like, you know what I mean?
I got to, man. I have to. Every show, man. Come on now.
All right. How about I say pizza? Can I say pizza?
Pizza works, man.
All right. Pizza. All right.
It works. Yeah.
There's two places, Christie's and Tripoli's. These two, these two businesses have been in business probably for 100 years each.
Wow.
60. Yeah. They serve what's called beach pizza. It's a little bit different than your normal everyday pizza. I highly recommend to anybody that's listening to this podcast, come on down to beautiful Salisbury Beach. Grab yourself a slice of Christie's with extra cheese. Oh yeah, you got to do extra cheese. Or Tripoli's with extra cheese, and you will not be disappointed. It's something that if you've never tried it, it's a must.
Sure. Okay. Christie's and Tripoli's it is. All right. Well, Jamie, thanks for hopping on the podcast today. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with everybody. To all the listeners out there, share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Jamie, any final words before we get out of here?
No. Everybody have a safe and happy Memorial Day, and just take it all in stride and just be happy.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on the podcast. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, Joseph.